With me in studio tonight is Dr. Emily Landau, Senior Research Fellow at the Institute of National Security Studies. Good evening, Dr. Landau.
Hi, good evening.
Well, Dr. Landau, the anniversary comes at a time where, as you know, there is increasing apprehension that nuclear reactors could become the next target for terrorist groups. It seems the big question is, could there be another Chernobyl?
Well, we're talking about two different issues. We have issues of nuclear safety and we have issues of nuclear security. So the safety regards issues such as what happened at Chernobyl, what happened in Fukushima in Japan, I think 5 years ago it is now. And the issues with regard to terrorism, of course, go to nuclear security, whether the facilities are secure and, no one can break in, sabotage the facility, try to release radioactive materials. So I think as far as safety is concerned, I think things are getting better. Certainly after Chernobyl, that led to improvements that were made. Then Fukushima, of course, that was a natural disaster that happened. The tsunami there was the major factor that caused the problems there. And so I think every time something like that happens, it causes those that deal with issues of safety to take that into consideration as well. At Chernobyl, I mean, there was a mix of bad design, I think, of the reactor, plus, human failure. It seems that what happened was that they were running the reactor on low power mode, which was a mode that they weren't really supposed to be running the reactor on. And this caused the massive heat that caused the steam that basically lifted the top of the reactor up into the air and really released all of this radiation. So that kind of accident, probably there's less of a chance, especially in the Western world. But again, it's not foolproof, and I think they're working on these issues all the time to improve safety and to make sure that these kind of accidents and release of massive doses of radioactive materials don't happen.
Well, I certainly want to talk to you more about the issue of security as well, and luckily we're having you with us for several segments of the show while we're doing nuclear discussions tonight. Dr. Landau, as we know, Israel is not part of the treaty on the non-proliferation of nuclear weapons. Does that make it less susceptible to scrutiny by the IAEA?
Well, of course, it makes it less susceptible to scrutiny by the IAEA because as a non-member of the NPT, Israel does not have inspections from IAEA inspectors. However, as far as safety is concerned, what Israel has done, according to reports, is that it has adopted the safety measures that are used by the IAEA without the actual inspections coming from the IAEA. So I think Israel is very mindful of the safety issue. Now, it is true that these reactors, everyone knows this, that they were built with, the intention was that they would not run for more than 40 years, and obviously this reactor has been running for more than 40 years. On the other hand, what they're saying is that they are checking it very carefully with this new ultrasound technology, and they found this, 1,500 defects, but it doesn't mean that it's malfunctioning. In other words, what it means is that they're checking it very carefully, noting every defect that's there and making sure that whenever it runs, and I don't know how much it runs and what schedule, whatever. Obviously, Israel has a policy of ambiguity in that regard, but the idea is that Israel is watching this very, very carefully.
Well, let's continue to talk about concerns with nuclear capabilities. And South Korea's President Park Geun-hye warned today that the North completed preparations for another fifth nuclear test. as reports circulate that Pyongyang is also preparing a powerful new mid-range missile for a test. This comes amid heightened tensions on the peninsula, and Park stressed the North could go ahead with the test whenever they decide. If they do move forward with it, that would be a dramatic act of defiance in the face of UN sanctions. So a dramatic act of defiance, Dr. Landau, it doesn't seem like to them it's that dramatic, or that they're very much concerned.
What, that the South Koreans are...
North Koreans,
well, North
about
Koreans
UN
are
sanctions,
doing it.
obviously.
Yeah. Look, I mean, what more can North Korea do to whip up international concern? They've done just about any and everything that can be done. They just had their 4th test, which they claimed was a hydrogen test. It seems that it wasn't a hydrogen test in January. So if they do go for a 5th nuclear test, this will be really stepping up the pace of their nuclear tests. So, I mean, North Korea is displaying very defiant behavior in the nuclear realm. That's clear. I think what should concern us very much with regard to North Korea is really what we know about past cooperation in the non-conventional realm, in other words, in the missile realm, but also in the nuclear realm between North Korea and Iran. It's not clear what's going on right now. This needs to be something that's watched very carefully, because Iran just had a failed satellite launch, and it seems that parts of that were transferred from North Korea to Iran. Iran also had a failed test, but a few months ago it had a successful satellite launch. So these two states are working on what we call ICBM capabilities in the missile realm. In other words, long-range intercontinental ballistic missiles. And it seems that they're working together. Now, you don't work on an ICBM capability if you're not thinking about the nuclear realm. It doesn't make sense. So these two go together. Major source of concern.
Well, Dr. Landau, speaking of a major source of concern, I want to wrap up our conversation today with looking ahead at the effects of the Iran deal. And this is a related story. Of course, Russia is considering the purchase of 40 tons of heavy water from Iran. Tehran is responsible for reducing its stock of heavy water, component of making nuclear weapons and producing nuclear energy. And in fact, the buyers seem to be lining up. Yes, Dr. Landau, I want to talk to you about Paul Ryan, who we saw in that story now. How right is he to be concerned about where this money is going and what Iran might end up doing with it?
Well, I think these are valid concerns because, Iran is selling the excess heavy water that it has. Now, the message that it's getting is that it's okay for it to produce in excess because there will be those that will buy it. So on the one hand, it's not a violation of the JCPOA, because if they keep to the, I think it's 130 tons that they're allowed to have at any given moment, then they're okay by the deal. But why in the world are these countries implicitly encouraging Iran to continue to produce in excess so that they will buy it? In other words, there's a problematic message here, and certainly the amount of money that they're going to get from this, I think $8 million from the United States. Where is this going? Does the United States know? Do the other members of the P5+1 know? There's something a little bit wrong with this message, I would say.
Something a little bit wrong with this indeed. Dr. Emily Landau, walking us through nuclear concerns in Iran and otherwise. Thank you very much for joining me tonight.
Thank you.